What's the scale? Yeah. Always happen to pop up with these. Yeah.
I'm Alex.
Hi. Who's Alex?
Alex, yes.
Alex, nice to meet you, Sean.
Nice to meet you, Sean.
What's up, Heidi?
What up?
Good. Sean. Nice to meet you.
At least according to what they do.
Read it for the Wi-Fi.
No, it's not going to take that shit to a table. I think it's 6'2".
Hold on. Yeah, no, let me, I got it.
You can't even go there and go like that.
Braille.
Okay, got it, thank you.
I think it puts C.
Morning.
Got a couple of riders here. Hey guys. Morning. Good. All right, guys, go ahead and open up the question or something. Hey Marvin, Vinny Bossier with the Review Journal. Welcome to Vegas. I was just curious, what about this role at this stage of your career was so appealing?
Well, I think just the opportunity to really assist AP. You know, from the time that I first met him and had the opportunity to coach him, and then the opportunity to kind of reunite again later on at Arizona State, and so it's kind of in a similar role at one point there with him there as well, being in support of him, and I just have been really impressed all the time with him back to 2002 with the now Commanders, I guess. But, you know, so just this opportunity. The rest of the coaching staff I spent time with last year, ironically, with the guys, particularly on defense. And I coached Mike Caldwell. I had Ricky Manning on my staff at an all-star game. I met Gerald. He's been 19 at Cal Berkeley. You know, Robbie's career, Leonard, and just so really these guys in association with them and all they've done. So just excited about the opportunity and the offensive staff as well.
It's probably a role that is defined not only by you, but like how people are approaching you and asking you and tapping into your knowledge. How has that gone so far, and what do you define the role as?
Well, I define the role as kind of speak when spoken to. You know, I'm here to support them and anything I can do that way, as well as the squad, the players. And but you know, that's the thing that's important to me. That you know, I try to keep things leveled out for them as much as I can.
At what point did you realize that AP was coach material?
Well, I don't know that then. I knew he was driven as a player, and I said that to him in, in 2021 at ASU when he became the coordinator, and we flipped roles, and I went back off the field, and he came to me during the bye week, and he said, "How am I doing?" I said, "Man, you're doing really good, but you also need to take some time for yourself and take a deep breath as well." But he's so driven, and I said, "That's how you became such a great player, is you're just so driven." And he also, I think based on how things happened in the fall and so forth, once he took over and reaching out to Coach Coughlin, reaching out to myself and the people that he had come in and be around, and just so he could bounce ideas off of, he's not, stuck on himself that way, He wants to hear other people's point of views and so forth that way, and that's good. But he has a great direction himself, as a leader. He takes responsibility for providing the direction and reinforcing it each and every day.
Hey, Coach, it's Tashawn Reed from The Athletic. I know when you first became the head coach, you were roughly around the same age as AP, and so you were kind of some of the first that he's going through and learning process that he's within now. How beneficial do you think it is to him to have somebody that's kind of going through a similar journey in that sense?
Well, I hope it is. I think I benefited from having the opportunity to work for two guys who became head coaches for the first time, Brian Billick and Bill Cowher. And then and Coach Spurrier, who had been a head coach, but the first time in the National Football League. So I think those were helpful to me when I got the opportunity to become a head coach. And so it was really, and hopefully I can help benefit AP as well that way.
Did you envision or seek eventually getting back in a role like this, or did this all just kind of come organically because of AP?
It came pretty organically. But, I'm excited about it. I had a couple other people inquire at times about my interest in doing something similar. And, the proximity to where I've made my permanent home also helped. The fact that, it's not very far away from Scottsdale. So that's the good thing. And my three grandsons that I miss.
There's another young coach on the staff who I think has head coach possibilities, and that's Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator. How's it been working with Patrick?
It's been a real pleasure. I didn't know Pat. I knew of Pat prior to last fall, but my opportunity to be around and with him in December and January and through this whole process has just been awesome. And anybody that asks me, I'm very supportive of him becoming a head coach, hopefully in this next cycle. I think he's deserving, both from ability, knowledge, his ability to handle the players and so forth. I really am impressed each and every day. And, so I'm trying to also be helpful to him as he goes forward with this process as well.
Coach, Levi Edwards from Raiders.com. Even from the Commanders to Arizona State, now Arizona State to the Raiders, what would you classify as AP's biggest area of improvement from those three steps?
I don't know that I can put my finger on a biggest area of improvement. I think the biggest thing that I think where he has really done a nice job is understanding the pulse of the football team. And I think he did that at ASU when I was with him. He would come to me and he said, when I was supposedly the defensive coordinator and he was the linebacker coach assisting me, he said, "I think the guys need to run today after defense needs to run today after practice." I said, "Okay, just, make sure we don't kill him." and I think that was evident to me at the end of the fall last year, and I think it's been evident through this process now how we began the OTA process and so forth. How well he's really conscious of the physical condition of the players and making sure we get all of our right guys to the gate. And I think that's really important as a head coach in the NFL. There's a degree of schematics, a degree of toughness, conditioning, and all those things we're trying to get to. But the key element is when September, whatever date that is, rolls around, we got all the right guys out there suited up, as many of them as we can. And I think that's really important. So, and I think he has a great sense of that.
Coach, what have you thought about his vision in building this team and implementing what he wants to see out of this group thus far?
I think he's really done a really good job. I think with him, Mr. Davis, and the things that he has said to AP and what he wants, what he knows the Raiders to be, what a Raider is, and I think along with Tom, they've done a nice job of really setting the footprint, the blueprint of that, and trying to make sure we work really hard to put people within those parameters.
Coach, that goes back to culture, and AP's talked a lot about culture. When you were in Cincinnati, you had to do a lot of changing of the culture. How do you go about doing that, and how does he achieve that? It looks like that's what he's doing here.
I think the first part of that is getting the right people in that locker room with you, alongside you. And that was the one thing I thought was really evident here last season, is the best players worked extremely hard on the field, and that's contagious. And that builds from the bottom up, and that's what you need. You need your leadership to be out there on the field, because we can't go out there in the huddle with them. And I think that was the same thing true is bringing the right kind of people in and so forth as you continue to build the roster and build the football team. But there's already a great nucleus here, and we're able to continue to build upon that because these guys that are here are really driven that way, and there's a lot of energy that way.
Hey, Coach, Alex Echelon with Channel 13. Sorry, I'm a ways back here from you, but I know it's early on. What excites you most about this year's group that you've seen so far?
I think a lot of the things we're talked about offensively is working hard to be more explosive on offense. And I think trying to put playmakers in position on offense and so forth, I think that's really important. I think defensively picking up where the squad left off and really being able to, a lot of the starters are returning, and then the addition of Christian Wilkins into that group, and then the evolution and the growth of these young players that maybe were spot players last season that now are seeing an opportunity to raise their lot and get more playing time and so forth, maybe become a starter, so forth, or a role player. I think Malcolm Kuntz is one that, watching what he did at the end of the year, I think everybody looks around and says, man, look what Malk did. I can do that. And I think that's really important. And I think that's the atmosphere that's been created, throughout the football team.
Marvin, speaking of the defense, I know you got a good look at this team up close towards the end of last year, and then so even now in OTAs, do you see some of the qualities from Max Crosby that you saw from Hall of Famers like Ray Lewis and Rod Woodson back on the Ravens?
I do. I see a driven player. I also had the opportunity to be around Bruce Smith and Darryl Green for a season. And, you see guys in Champ Bailey. You see guys that have become at the pinnacle, Shannon Sharp, of their game and how they go about their business each and every day. And you can set your watch by Max Crosby now. Somebody said it'd be easy to assassinate him because you know where he's going to be at all times. And, he's phenomenal. And, being over there in Arizona, I got to spend a lot of time over with the Cardinals and watching J.J. Watt at the end of his career. And the very last practice J.J. Watt had for the Arizona Cardinals, he looked like Max Crosby looks every day out here. And I think, to me, that shows you what a great player is like. I was influenced as a young coach in the NFL by Rod Woodson. And then later was fortunate enough to draft Ray Lewis. And then we brought Shannon Sharp. So I've been watching how these guys who've become, Hall of Fame players, how they go about and go about their day each and every day. And Max has those qualities.
When you look back at the last 9 weeks of last year, you never know how that's going to go sometimes as an interim coach. But how invaluable and important, now that you look back, was that experience, not only for Antonio Pierce, but the players and setting the tone that they set last year to kind of create the momentum for this year?
I think the biggest thing is everybody knows each other. There was no surprises. he didn't change throughout, and he kept that fire, that drive with them. And I think that's really important. So there's nobody wondering about how this team is going to work through adversity. One of the things that I have said, I came in this building 3 times after losses. After the first Kansas City loss, after the Minnesota loss, and after the Colts loss. And nobody was hanging their head. There was no, people walking around, poor me. And they went right back to work with that drive in their eyes, and you could see it. And that's hard to do, man. Believe me, I know. Because, you have some losses that hurt. You get knocked from the playoffs, the Minnesota loss, those are hard things. And they bounced right back. And they came to work Monday morning. That was the key element. And there was no hangover. And that's so important.
Coach, you talked about your general role. Specifically, have you gotten into what your game day role will be, within the box or the field, or what kind of thing?
I don't know that. I don't know where actually I'll be. The press box looked awful crowded up there last year. And I know if I'm on the sideline, I better stay back. I'm going to be like Coach Fitch, But I don't know yet, what AP thinks and, where I can add value. We'll see.
After that experience last year, though, were you sure that you wanted to be back if AP became the interim coach, or would it take some convincing, or what was?
No, it didn't take any convincing at all, really. Between he and Mr. Davis, I don't think it took much. I'm excited for him. That's all I can say. Each and every day, when he was going through the process, after the season and so forth, we talked probably every couple of days, not every day, but every couple of days. And then as he began to put the staff together, he would check in with me and, just tell me how things were going and what he liked, what he disliked, and so forth. And then, anything I could do to help him, to research coaches and so forth. That's what my role was.
How would you describe AP's maturation and growth last season?
I think he really did. I think he grew. I think you learn. One of the things people ask me, what do I need to know when I become a head coach? And one of the things I would tell them is, tomorrow will be better. And I think you learn how to try to level out a lot of those peaks and valleys. And I think those are the things that are important. He had to make. There was a couple things that occurred where they made roster decisions. And I think you learn from every time you have to make one of those decisions during the season, where you're changing players in and out and so forth. And I think that's also part of this job, is having a certain pulse and a feel for that, that you can't necessarily hurry into decisions. You got to make sure you weigh the pros and cons of those things.
You talked about some of the players in the past, how they compared to Max Crosby. A guy like Jack Jones that will make a play and then tell you about how he made that play. What does that bring to kind of the rest of the defense?
We want to have some consistency of things, and we're trying to iron Jackie out a little bit, all the time. He's a very talented player, and I've had the pleasure, as I told him again, Jack, it's been 5 years now, and let's move on. Let's move to step B. We're still on step A, but he's a very talented young man. He has a knack for making football plays, and he just has that about him. And I think it's just learning, still in the process, learning to be a pro day in and day out. And I think that's important. And I think, but his teammates know what they're going to get out there on the field, and we just got to make sure we keep all those things positive all the time. I remember at the end of the season, he made just a great play in the Denver game where he came across and tipped the ball in the end zone. The next play, he didn't move. And that's the thing. It's this is a tough. You play it. That's a position. It's the toughest position on the field. I mean, you got to cover a guy that you can't touch. He knows where he's going, and you can't touch him. Other than that, it's easy.
Yeah, set? All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, great. Yes, we can. What's up?
All right, guys, our quarterback's coach is getting around, so go ahead and open your questions.
Any questions?
Obviously, you spent some time here very early in your career, and now it's kind of a full circle moment to be back. How cool is it to be back in the building? And how have things changed going from Oakland to Vegas, in your opinion?
I feel very fortunate to be back. It's, from top to bottom, I think the organization's in a great place. The facility they built here is as good as anyone in the league. The town, the city, living here, it's just, I've been in Vegas now for a little over a year, actually, but just the people behind you can feel the vibe. The community's always rallying around it, and I just feel like the where we're at and where we're headed, and the leadership and all that together. Just the overall mentality of everyone involved. I think it's in a good spot and a healthy spot, and has a chance to be really special.
Coach, I know it's early on, only a couple weeks of OTAs, but what are your impressions of Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell so far?
I've been very pleased. It's competitive. They're both incredible, good personalities. They balance each other well. They're different how they approach it. They're different how they play, but their mindsets are similar. They're bringing out the best in each other. We're throwing a lot at them. They've handled it well. But I feel like we got great opportunities for one of these guys to lead us to do some great things. I think that both of them are capable, and the style of play is probably a little different in each, but it's exciting, and they both bring a lot to the table.
You talk about both of them, but Aiden O'Connell specifically, what have you seen kind of him in terms of just being in the building, being around, and what he's trying to do between year 1 and 2?
Just watching afar last year, I was incredibly impressed with how he handled the situation. Both the quarterbacks in the room with him last year I had prior, were friendships, relationships with, and they were extremely impressed with him. So as I've seen him up close, I just feel like the individual is everything you'd hoped he'd be. He's just got a lot of internal drive, discipline, how he sees the game the right way. He wants to be great. He'll work at it. He's selfless, and he has a great deal of respect among the teammates, the coaching staff, and everyone in the building. So I think to do that as a rookie, thrown into how he was, I give him a lot of credit, and it says a lot about the individual. And without that, it's tough to be successful in this league, definitely to be great at the position. So that's exciting to work with.
Coach, you've been in situations where there was a defiant starter this time of year, and the job was to get him and the backups ready for the season. Mm-hmm. That's still the case this year, but then there's also the component of deciding who that starter is going to be among the candidates. So how do you go about balancing both preparing somebody for the season, but then also making a decision on who's going to be the leader of this team?
Yeah, it's tricky because there's one other element. The defense has been here, and there's some continuity in that respect, and we're putting in a new offense. But I think it's a credit to Luke. The flexibility, the offense ability to adapt to the type of player you have. So we got to put those guys in a position to do what we think that they can do for us well. But on top of that, let them compete equally and see who emerges to that. Competition always brings out the best. There's enough reps to go around. Obviously, you'd always like to have one guy established, but I don't think it will linger. I think someone will emerge. And it's exciting. I think it's a good problem to have. I think it's healthy, it's positive, and I think that the cupboard's not bare here. There's some really good football players. There's a great mentality. So they have to do their part. We have to let others around them be the best versions of themselves, and we got to max ourselves out. And I think there's a clear path to that, and I think that they're on track, and I'm excited about it.
Coach, you were talking about how they have the same mentality each day, but they have different skill sets, different personalities. Just from your point of view, what do you think are the biggest strengths in each one of these quarterbacks' game?
Yeah, look, talking about Gardner, I've always had a great deal of respect for him in the league. He coming out, I had some familiarity with him, and I liked him as one of my top guys as an undrafted late pick. I have a great deal of respect that those types of individuals that make it in this league. They have incredible moxie and just baller in them, and it takes that when you're not 6'4" or have the biggest arm. You have to have the mindset and the grit. He's made of that stuff, and so that's an important element to your team in any capacity. So that's exciting to see that happen with Gardner, and yeah. So overall, man, the group themselves, both of them, like I'm excited how they're playing off each other, and I just think they're going to make each other better.
Coach, do you think maybe something a little overlooked with Aiden is his arm strength, is his arm talent, that maybe a little undervalued in those areas? Too much focus on mobility and maybe the things he's not blessed with, and maybe it's overlooked his arm talent.
Yeah, from what I've seen, he's exceptionally accurate. Like I don't say that lightly. Like everyone has traits and there are strengths and weaknesses to every quarterback in this league, but he throws the ball where he needs it to go at a very high level. So that's exciting. It's important in this system. And as far as the mobility and who's the guy and all of that, that's the beauty of this system. It has flexibility to fit the personnel. That's whether it's your skill players, your line, or more importantly, your quarterback type of play. And so I think that I'm excited about his arm talent. And I think he throws the ball very well, and he can push the ball down the field. And the guys that have been in this offense, the Kirk Cousins type players and things like that, have done exceptionally well. And I think that he has those kinds of traits. So excited to see if we can bring out that version of him.
The thing he did so well down the stretch, I think, according to most people, is protect the football and take care of it, which is obviously a main job for a quarterback. But so much talk around this team has been trying to increase the explosives, get the ball downfield. How do you continue to protect the football, manage the game in that way, but also increase the explosive play?
Well, it helps when, in my opinion, I love having great tight ends to do that. And I say that my experience and Luke's experience, we're kind of similar paths and beliefs. That's why I'm excited to work with him, being around him. I'd heard this from a lot of people in the league. He's one of the best minds I've been around. He's a very good teacher. So he knows how to bring out the best in guys. My experience, like in San Francisco, is you have these guys that are these critical chess pieces, like Juiced 44 and Kittle, and these guys that you move around, and they're chess pieces to create matchups, one-on-ones for both them and your wideouts, and to be aggressive running the ball and being able to attack people aggressively with explosives off of that and be dominant on first and second down. And I think that's been San Francisco. That's the experience Luke had in Green Bay. And you look at the teams at the top that do that well, the Green Bays, the Niners, the Rams, they're our family. And I think that we have an opportunity to try and build something like that. It won't be easy. There'll be bumps in the road, but I think we can trend that way with the types of players we have and make it come alive.
You said earlier you've been around in Vegas before you took this job. I guess what brought you to Vegas?
I took last year off, recharged my batteries, and it was a great experience. Honestly, I needed it. I have a number of friends out here, so I kind of enjoyed being out here in a group. I'm a West Coast guy, and so it became my home. I experienced the Knights last year. It was phenomenal, and now it's our opportunity to do something similar.
All set? Cool.
Thanks, Coach.